Fish and friends, welcome back to Burley Fishing. Thanks for stopping by the channel. Today we are talking about traveling with your gear, and most importantly, traveling without losing, damaging, or doing something else atrocious through airline travel. And you want to bring your favorite stuff so you can have a good time fishing, but you don't want to be at risk of losing it with luggage handling or having it be broken or anything like that. So got some tips for you today, tips that I just used that worked out perfectly for me flying Southwest Airlines. So I mean, you guys, whatever airline you're flying, this stuff should work. Asterisk, if it doesn't, don't blame me. Call the airline first if you are not sure, right? That's what I did. That's what most people do. I didn't see a lot of good answers out there. That's why I figured I'd make this, because the stuff I did worked. So let's give it a shot. Also, if this is your first time stopping by the channel and you like the content, please smash that like button, hit subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can see when I post more good content. All right, first things first, let's start with the rods. So to transport the rods, you guys are gonna want to get a two-piece, 3 or even a 4-piece rod. If you go with a 3 or 4-piece rod and you're under 42 inches in length with your case, you can actually probably carry it on with most airlines. Again, just call ahead and check the dimensions and you should be able to get away with it. If you're okay with having it be checked baggage, or you go with an airline like Southwest that gives you like 2 checked bags, you have just 1 suitcase, the other one can be your fishing rod, then you can go with a little bit of a larger case like this. So the 2-piece fly rod case actually, but it works great for 2-piece fishing rods. And you can actually fit 2 2-piece rods in here. So if you want to bring like a spinning setup and a bait casting setup, double up. That's what I did. Worked out perfectly fine for me. I ended up going with this kastking rod that actually comes with 2 different rod tips as a 2-piece. One is a medium action, one is a medium heavy action, so you get a little more variety. It's almost like having 3 rods with me, which is pretty cool. We'll get to the review of that in a little bit. But yeah, this is surrounded in hard plastic. It's not gonna break. I mean, you can see here's my check bag, receipt, luggage tags, all that. We do also have foam padding on the top. So rod tips will be protected. The butt end of the rod doesn't matter as much, but there's a little bit of padding on this end too. And like I said, I already traveled with this. It worked really well, but this is too big to be a carry-on in probably any airline. So just make sure you're comfortable with this going on, but I'm telling you, this will hold up to anything TSA can throw at you. So I wouldn't worry about it as much. Again, if you are worried about your rods, you want to bring it on the plane with you, you're going to have to go with like a 3 or a 4-piece setup with a smaller rod tube, and that's fine too. The reason I went with this over the like big 7 or 8 rod containers, not that those are bad, is just that no matter where you go, you're going to get an oversized luggage fee unless you know somebody at the airline. Like if you get the hookup or you luck out sometimes, I've heard, funeral procession, we're in Florida. This is what happens when you film in a garage. Sometimes I've heard you can luck out, but I wasn't really gonna take the risk. Sometimes oversized baggage fees are like 75 bucks or more. I just wasn't really willing to pay that. I figured I would just take rods I think are decent and like a 2-piece setup, carry it in this longer case and have it be checked, and it's no big deal. But they do, like Plano for example, and I don't even know what other brands, they make like these giant rod tubes. Again, the problem is not always the length, because you can usually get it down the length. I think it goes up to 8 feet at most airlines is like the limit before oversized fee, but it's the width.
Good morning, praise the Lord, glory, hallelujah.
Yes, awesome. All right, so it's hard to bounce back from that, man. It's the diameter of the tube that gets you in trouble. So you know, the limit diameter for Southwest was like 3 inches across. Not gonna happen. These tubes are like 4.5 inches easy. So but then even the length, like imagine carrying this thing around. You have to extend it to like that 8-foot plus range to carry like a 7.3 rod, which is what I was trying to do, even just a couple of them with me. And this thing was just enormous. It was impractical. It wasn't gonna fit into the vehicle when we landed. So I was like, you know what? This isn't worth it. This isn't gonna be fun. So we ended up going with that fly tube, and that worked out perfectly fine. So again, you want to bring like a spin setup and a bait caster setup, or even get like that multi-tip option from Kastking like we're going to talk about today, then you do have a lot of gear with you and you'll be fine. You'll have plenty of fishing to do. So now that we have that, let's talk about reels. All right, so let's talk about taking care of your reels. So you might sacrifice a little bit and take like a 2-piece rod, something maybe a little bit cheaper. I think my Kastking we're gonna talk about today is like 70 bucks compared to most of like the $100 plus rods that I really like to fish with that are 1-piece and I couldn't bring. But the reels, I didn't sacrifice on bringing those. So I brought like my Revo SX, and for spinning we brought the Fluger Present XT. So I went with like my decent mid to higher range reels to bring with me. So fishing was still more enjoyable. But how do you transport those things while keeping them safe? One, they're smaller, so you can obviously carry them on. What I'd recommend for your bait casting reels is something like this. This particular one is actually from Six Skill Fishing, but it's a very generic neoprene protector case. You can get this in many, many different brands. As you can see, you just throw the reel in there. The handle end would be out here. You're gonna loop that around, strap that there, and then these two for security go around the top. There you go. Reel is nice and protected. For the spinning reel, I actually just wrapped it in a t-shirt, so there you go. So you could also just wrap this in a t-shirt too. This is just a little fancier way to go. I do really like these, and these are designed to also be used when it's on the rod. So I figured this was a multi-purpose thing for me anyways. You know, I can protect my reels when I throw them in the back of my truck. I guess rods don't matter. Yes, they do, of course. Usually they're all stored in my kayak anyways. This is just one of those different scenarios, but this is a good option too, or wrap it in a t-shirt, like I said. So obviously we have our rods, we have our reels, we have fishing line rigged up on the reels. Maybe you bring some extra line with you. Again, you can just throw that in your carry-on. But how do we transport tackle? Because it's so big and bulky. You could throw it in your carry-on. You could bring it with you, but then you can't bring anything else. Like if you wanna, you know, I don't know, watch videos on an iPad or like read your Kindle or whatever, you might run out of room in your carry-on. So what do? I actually checked my tackle. I went for that. So we threw it in the suitcase, but how did I make sure that everything was gonna be safe? What we ended up doing was we went with a little higher end setup. So I actually just picked these up, and I'm excited to use these for the season too. Actually still have price tags on them. But these are the Plano Edge cases. And why I went with them, one, I love the technology behind them. So they have like the little moisture wicking tab right there. Okay, a little moisture wicking cell. Yes, you can DIY that. Of course you can do that. It's probably way cheaper. I just like these better, so sue me. But the other reason I really like these is, put one of them down, is versus like your normal watertight tackle trays, is rather than having like 1, 2, 3, or even 4 latches on it, it's just one. So I just pull this down, just boop, and then the whole thing opens up and it closes really easy. I just like it. It's way more convenient. We went with the 3700 size so that we could fit a ton more tackle in each of these, because I didn't want to bring like 3 3600 sizes. It'd be too many tackle trays to really fit into even the checked bag. So we went 2 of the 3700s and it worked out great. As you can see, I have a crap ton of tackle in there. I wasn't really sure what the fishing conditions were going to be like, if I was going to be pond fishing, bait fishing, kayak fishing. I'm going to end up going kayak fishing, so I'm glad I brought some of the stuff that I did. But I wanted to plan for kind of all scenarios, just depending on where I ended up. I'm not really fishing all day, I'm kind of just doing it for fun, but I figured we could, you know, be a jack of all trades for this trip and really just have all sorts of different tackle. So yeah, basically all your basic tackle, I was able to fit a ton of it into these. 2 of these wrapped, or you know, top and bottom, kind of protected by the clothing in my checked bag. Meant it was going to hold up really well. Also, this is just a higher durability plastic on top, so I knew that it was going to be fine, and it was, and I was really excited about it. I'll update this video if it breaks on the ride home, but I think we'll be fine. So from there, you might also want to bring some plastics. So if you bring a bunch of hooks like I did, or you know, some artificial riggings that are going to require some plastics to be attached to them, then you're going to want to bring some plastics. So how do you narrow down your 10 tubs of plastics and figure out what to bring? go with the things that work the most so that you can limit the amount of plastics you're bringing. So like green pumpkins and watermelons and things like that. None of the crazy colors that you try every so often, just stuff that you know produces. And maybe call ahead or talk to an expert in the area to figure out what's really catching fish, right? So that's what I did, and I was able to narrow this down. And the transport option I used that I really liked is this Bass Mafia Money bag. And important note with this is that they do seal airtight, okay? So if you're in a checked bag and it's getting just pummeled with other bags in the luggage area, and TSA is punching this thing in the gut and throwing it around, it might explode. So don't seal it, right? All I did was actually partially zip it just so nothing would fall out, right, as it was being transported. But it could also be compressed at that point, and they're plastics, they'll be fine, right? I wasn't really worried about it getting banged up. I was more worried about the bag than anything else. But obviously this keeps all your plastics in one spot so they're not bouncing around in your checked bag and causing issues or getting, you know, just the oily secretions all over your clothes, because that would be sad too. So we're all good here. So, I mean, travel wise, all we had to do, take these two boxes and this, and then just sort of surround them with clothing so they were protected, and throw that in the checked bag. We had our rod tube, spladang, and that was carrying 2.5 rods based on the options we had with that kastking having the 2 tips, and we're good to go. Other than that, your carry-on bag is gonna end up being your tackle bag for the week. So go with a bag for that you like. I don't do a ton of bank fishing, so I can't say that I'm gonna go out and buy a bag meant for bank fishermen. Usually I throw everything into my Cabela's crate, which sits right in my boat, so I don't usually bother with that. What I did have was this Yeti Takeo. I don't think you can get this bag anymore, but they do have like a new updated commuter version, and the only difference really is just that the water bottle holders were like on the inside of this bag, and now they're on the outside. Whatever. Point is, you don't have to have a Yeti bag. Just get one of those awesome looking like Daiwas, or they have like Samurai at Dick's Sporting Goods or whatever. Those are all great bags. They hold the tackle trays better. Just get a bag that works for you. Use that as your carry-on. And then when you land where you're going to go, pack it up with all that gear that you checked and go fish. Enjoy, right? So last but not least, what I wanted to do is sort of piggyback on this video, and maybe this needs to be a separate video, but we're going to test out this kastking, I think it's a kastking Perigee. This is so we ended up going with the 2-piece 7-foot. Very interested. I'm gonna go cast this around now, throw a little bit of that on the end of this video so you guys can see what it looks like. Do a more full review once I can actually go fishing with it. I'm going kayak fishing tomorrow, so we're gonna test it in action. There are no fish in these little manufactured ponds, so I'm really just gonna go cast for funsies, right? But the interesting thing I saw about this is it has this, what's called a double ferrule joint, where these 2 ends of the 2-piece rod here don't actually butt all the way up to each other. So don't do what I did and try and put it together and freak out when it doesn't touch because you need things to be perfect because you have some sort of OCD. This guy, it's totally normal. So I want to get this thing out on the water. We're going to test it out, but hopefully today's video was helpful for you guys. If you're going traveling, if you want to go fishing where you travel, don't just buy a piece of junk telescoping rod when you get there. Bring the stuff you want to bring, but be smart about it so that it doesn't get damaged or broken in travel. It's very simple to do. It's very cheap to do. You don't have to pay 130 bucks for this Airline 7 rod holding gigantor bazooka thing and then pay the overage fees or oversized charge. Like, don't do that. Just get like a little 2-piece rod holder that's very tiny. So we'll still carry 2 rods or 2.5 if you go with something like this kastking option. So you get a good variety of ways to fish, and then protect your reels and throw all your tackle into your most sturdy tackle trays. Put that in your check bag, go for a ride, enjoy yourself when you get there, and then bring it all back home safely. If you guys liked today's video, be sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you can see when I post more videos. And we'll see you guys out on the water.